American Express card we giving folks. It's a prepaid debit card only for food and baby supplies.
The mayor's whole plan is to basically replace the already non-perishable food boxes.
As you know, the city's already been spending millions of dollars to care for the influx of migrants that have entered the city.
The city is now launching a new pilot program to provide certain migrants staying in hotels with prepaid debit cards.
I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City.
Limited help from the Biden administration to stop the flow of asylum seekers. Mayor Adams is taking matters into his own hands tonight.
Distribution of debit cards. The first debit cards for food and infant supplies were given to a small group of recent arrivals on Monday as part of the controversial scheme that New York City officials are pushing forward with. A backlash against the program has arisen from worries about possible fraud or abuse, as well as whether or not migrants were receiving preferential treatment over other needy individuals. However, with 180,000 migrants having visited the city in the past 2 years and 65,000 still in shelters, housing and food expenditures are rising, and Mayor Eric Adams' government is keen to attempt a different strategy. According to city officials, the initiative will provide up to $350 per week for a family of 4. It will run for 6 weeks. On Monday, the initiative will start with 10 families and grow to around 115 families, or about 450 people, over the course of the next week. The program's proponents, including Democratic Mayor Adams, have maintained that it will reduce the expense of feeding migrants, reinvest money in nearby companies, and prevent the city from throwing away food that goes uneaten. In an interview on Monday, Ann Williams-Isom, the city's deputy mayor for Health and Human Services, stated that she did not understand the outcry over allowing a group of vulnerable people to purchase their own food. She pointed out that New Yorkers who are not immigrants can access other programs like cash assistance and food stamps. It's not putting groups against each other, she said, adding, "I do struggle with why people are being so negative when it comes to providing something so basic for families with children." The cards will be given to immigrant families living in hotels that are serving as emergency shelters under a 28-day voucher scheme at the city's arrival hub, the Roosevelt Hotel in Manhattan.
American Express card we giving folks. It's a prepaid debit card only for food and baby supplies.
New York City is moving forward with a plan to give prepaid debit cards to migrant families. Despite
issued cards will be provided to an initial 500 families for use exclusively at grocery and convenience stores.
The city is now launching a new pilot program to provide certain migrants staying in hotels with prepaid debit cards.
Before the initiative was extended to other families, city officials stated that the cards would be filled with monies for 1 week at a time, and that their use would be closely monitored. The Republican minority leader on the city council, Joseph Borelli, conceded that giving out debit cards might be less expensive than giving them boxed dinners, but he insisted that the city was still spending excessive amounts of money on migrant services. He stated, "It's going to be perceived as fundamentally unfair by many New Yorkers. Many New Yorkers are having financial difficulties paying their bills." The initiative has seen the worst condemnation from conservative officials and pundits, including as Fox News' Greg Abbott of Texas, who called the proposal insanity at a time when immigrants were being accused of crimes. Concerns have also been expressed over the card supply contract, which was given to Mobility Capital Finance in an emergency situation without inviting competitive offers from other businesses. The Adams government has come under fire for awarding a $432 million no-bid contract to the medical services provider DocGo, whose handling of the migrant issue has been clouded by scandal. The contract with Mobility Capital Finance, or MoCaFi, a business that specializes in offering financial services to low-income communities, could end up costing as much as $53 million, according to city officials. Of that amount, MoCaFi might receive about $2 million, and families would receive the remaining amount. The city has already paid the corporation a startup fee of $125,000, advance money to be put on cards, and $3 for each card to be created, totaling almost $570,000 spent on the deal thus far. Wool Coxum, the CEO of the company, stated that MoCaFi had worked on universal basic income cards in other areas, such as Newark, New Jersey, and Los Angeles, and that they were not misused. In an interview, he stated, "What we found is that people spend the money on the intended purpose in each of these instances." According to Mr. Coxum, the card's digital coding guarantees that they can only be used in bodegas and supermarkets. Families are requested to preserve their receipts, and participants are required to sign an affidavit promising to use the funds solely on food and baby necessities or risk being kicked out of the program. According to Mr. Coxum, the city is working with bodegas and supermarkets to make the laws clear and has the authority to take money off the cards or permanently disable them. The city wants to gather input before extending the initiative. According to Ms. Williams-Isom, officials will assess if the program is accomplishing its objectives. To determine whether this is something that is worthwhile, we'll be looking at where they're actually being used, what the card is being used for, and feedback from migrants themselves, she stated.
It puts money back into local economy, like bodegas, grocery stores, and supermarkets.
The mayor's whole plan is to basically replace the already non-perishable food boxes. That
pilot program. It gives 500 migrant families prepaid cards for food and baby supplies.
Mayor Adams says the one-time cards will initially be given to 500 families with children in place of the current system of
political tensions. Mayor Eric Adams has been pleading with the federal government for assistance for months, as New York City has struggled to deal with the influx of over 110,000 asylum seekers from the southern border. A demonstration of support showed up on Friday. The Roosevelt Hotel in Midtown, where the city is housing 850 migrant families, was inspected by at least 10 Democratic members of Congress, some of whom traveled from as far away as Texas and Los Angeles. The group, which was headed by New York Representatives Adriano Espaillat and Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, applauded the city's efforts and expressed optimism about the future. According to Ms. Ocasio-Cortez, there is a consensus among Congress members on critical topics, such as increasing federal funding for cities, expediting migrant workers' work permits, and extending temporary protected status for Venezuelans, who make up the majority of those entering New York. However, a tiny but raucous group of demonstrators, whose cries of "send them back" and "close the border" drowned out the speeches, revealed a different and more challenging reality that the city was facing. It's unlikely that a House controlled by Republicans will do anything to assist New York. Instead, the crisis has served as a talking point for conservative lawmakers who want to tighten immigration laws and secure the border. Democrats are divided as well. President Biden has made only a few progress toward the policies that New York leaders have requested, despite fierce opposition to border control and a re-election campaign. Mr. Espaillat did, however, strike a positive note when he said, "The American dream will not be bullied into submission today." It was only last week that he and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez attacked Mr. Adams for claiming that the immigration issue will destroy New York, a reference to the estimated $12 billion cost of hosting the migrants over a 3-year period.
I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City.
I don't like exactly the language that's there, but I think the Biden administration can certainly do a lot more.
As you know, the city's already been spending millions of dollars to care for the influx of migrants that have entered the city.
Seeker crisis is a national crisis that requires a coordination response from the federal government.
We differ on that, Mr. Espaillat said to The Hill, but I don't think they're going to destroy the city. On the previous Twitter platform X, Ms. Ocasio-Cortez stated that Mr. Adams' remark puts solutions even further away and only escalates tensions and obstacles. This comment went on to become a Republican talking point. Representative Jamal Bowman of New York lauded the city for doing Herculean work and described his tour of the Roosevelt as inspiring on Friday. Over 200 migrant sites have been opened as part of this development, which has sparked demonstrations throughout the city. A banner reading "No Work Authorization" was held by Queens resident David Rem, 59, on Friday outside the barricades erected for the press conference. "Stay in Mexico." He added that in order for his family to lawfully enter the nation, they had been waiting 7 years for an immigration hearing in Colombia. Speaking about the migrants in the hotel, he declared, "These people are not true asylum seekers." Following the demonstration, Staten Island Republican Representative Nicole Maliotakis expressed her hope that the Democratic members of Congress got the message today that New Yorkers are fed up with President Biden's open border policies that are wreaking havoc in their city. There were indications that the city was beginning to keep up with the influx of migrants at the time of the congressional visit. In contrast, things were different in the spring. Less migrants arrived during the 3 weeks between May 28 and June 18, but according to city data, only roughly 1,200 individuals per week departed shelters. The city's vigorous efforts to find homes for migrants, including purchasing tickets for them to travel outside the city, and a recent regulation requiring single adult migrants who have been in a shelter for 60 days to reapply and begin the entire intake process anew if they wish to remain in the city's care, are the reasons given by Ms. Williams-Isom for the leveling off. Although not all migrants will reach their 60-day restriction until the end of this month, some are departing earlier than expected. Staff Attorney Joshua Goldfein of the Legal Aid Society, which represents the organization that keeps an eye on conditions at homeless shelters in the city, expressed encouragement on Friday. He stated, "They are now implementing case management and it's having an impact." When hundreds of migrants were forced to sleep on the sidewalk outside the Roosevelt last month, it was the site of the city's most noticeable crisis management failure. "There is no more room," stated Mr. Adams. Yet hundreds of beds were reportedly available in the city, according to later reports. Families of migrants arrived and left the hotel on Friday, including Naleth Torres, 36, and her 2 sons from Venezuela. "I have a child with disabilities. I need for them to help me so that he can have his therapy," she said, not having seen the members of Congress yet. She also asked to be permitted to work, which was her second request. "Anything works," she replied, turning to go down East 46th Street.
Limited help from the Biden administration to stop the flow of asylum seekers. Mayor Adams is taking matters into his own hands tonight.
This is a national crisis, but on the local level, the mayor of New York City has a new plan to help migrants with the cost of food.
That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.